Welcome to episode 15 of season 6 of Whole Lot of Wolves. I'm Joshua Buckley with co-host Paul LePage.
Hello.
And Danny on the socials.
Good evening.
And joining us to help preview this week's opposition, one of our favorite guests from Washington, D.C.'s Crystal Palace supporters group. It's Matt Sampson. How's it going, Matt?
It's going well. How are you fellas doing?
We've been better.
Understood. I understand.
Yeah. So tell us, have you sobered up from Palace winning the FA Cup?
Just barely. Woke up this morning. Finally, you pop those final two Advil, and I'm okay now. But yeah, it's been a bit.
So how's the league started for you overall?
We brought up the Dreamland way that the last season finished, kind of continued into the start of the new season with the Community Shield win at Wembley over Liverpool and our first ever European matches. During that time, the unbeaten streak that had started back in April swelled up to kind of just seems improbable to say 19 matches in all competitions. The Palace saw the unbeaten run end by surrendering 2 goals in the final 20 minutes to fall 2-1 at Everton, a team we just can't ever beat. And the rest of the month there was kind of, for lack of a better term, all over the place. We had a rollicking draw with Bournemouth in one of the Premier League's best matches of the season. Conference League home loss to Larnaca, who's currently sitting 5th in the Cyprus First Division. And then a gut punch loss at Arsenal with former Palace man Abir Eze scoring the game's only goal, as he seemed sort of destined to do. And then from there, we kind of huffed and puffed our way into this international break a little bit. We had 4 matches in 12 days' time. Now, the results were extremely positive, 3 wins and a draw. But the team kind of looked like they really couldn't go through all the gears against Brighton in their last Premier League match prior to Saturday's game against Wolves.
So, Matt, what changed back in mid-October with that 3-3 draw against Arsenal? Only been 1 goal conceded since then, which Bournemouth, and since then only 1 goal conceded, and that was that loss to Arsenal. So, switch been clicked, or how do you explain it?
I really can't explain the Bournemouth match from the standpoint we've conceded 9 goals in the league all season, and 3 of them came in that match. There was certainly, I think, a little bit of bad luck involved there. Palace defenders had their foot on the ball just prior to 2 of the 3 goals, but Mark Gahey fluffed his lines on a clearance, and Tyrick Mitchell didn't really just nick across quite enough to steer it away from the Bournemouth attacker. But I think that even with that subpar showing, the defense didn't really lose a smidge of confidence. That unit, they've got more starts together than any other unit on the team. And, save for a small knock to a guy here and there, we've been rolling out pretty much the same back 5 for the better part of a year now. So just a lot of, cohesion and continuity. It certainly doesn't hurt when you've got a England international goalkeeper behind you and Dean Henderson. It was certainly a bumpy start for Henderson at Palace, mostly due to injury, but he's been simply incredible since he won the starting job. He's a top performer on the pitch and just one of those guys you love having on your team who, he just gets it. He gets the club, he gets the fans, he gets the culture and everything. And so I think that combination of just, defensive cohesion and an all-world goalkeeper behind us is just, steadied the ship right after that one shaky performance against Bournemouth.
So you mentioned Conference League earlier, which you could probably offer me $100,000, and I don't think I could even name the country of the team that you played against.
Right.
So what's the Conference League like? Especially, you guys should be in Europa, but you got hosed there. But Conference League fun?
Well, for me personally, it's meant a lot more fake meetings on my Outlook calendar at 3 p.m. on Thursdays. So there's that. For the traveling supporters, from everything I'm seeing online, it's been brilliant. Palace has sold out its ticket allotments in Norway, Poland, and France. The final Conference League away day in Dublin goes on sale tomorrow morning. I'm sure the tickets will be gone before I even wake up. And really all I want for Christmas is for Palace to advance to the next stage so I can head over for a European night in Gibraltar or something and then pass through Selhurst Park on the way home. As far as like the club, it's definitely been an adjustment. This isn't the biggest squad, and a couple of our young guys and summer transfers just haven't really made that leap into being players that manager Oliver Glasner truly trusts. So we've seen a lot of the same 13, 14 guys logging heavy minutes in the Conference League and then being asked to run it back 3 days later for a Premier League match. For one example, Palace played its best midfield combo of Daichi Kamada and Adam Wharton in that match against Bournemouth we were talking about because, the cherries were positively flying at the time. And why wouldn't you have your best midfield out against a team like that? But both of those guys were just knackered at the end and on the bench against Lanaka a few days later. And against a team that played a low block, we really needed that more creative midfield to help unlock it. And we just didn't have them available until the very end. So I think a big part of Conference League for Palace is going to be figuring out how you play that one game, knowing the next one's coming on such short rest. And, really given the flurry of matches between now and the new year, it's something that they need to get right if they're going to stay in that, top half to move on to the next stage.
What's the dynamic being like with Mark Gay staying? And as a reminder for our listeners, that was a last-minute transfer deadline day move to Liverpool, collapse at the 11th hour.
Yeah, Mark is our captain. He's been our captain for a few seasons now. And, and it's just an absolute professional. If he was disappointed in the deadline day deal falling through, which happened even after, it was rumored that he had his physical with Liverpool, it hasn't showed at all. He's been certainly upfront with the club and saying that he's not interested in signing a new deal, but he's been 100% honoring his current one. We will miss him dearly will we miss him dearly when he's playing somewhere else next season? Of course. If we don't advance far in Conference League or don't secure a European spot for next year, will there be like a small part of every Palace fan saying like, maybe we should have taken the 35 million pounds? Perhaps. But I think for now, we're all just really trying to enjoy the end of a just fantastic run with the club. I mean, Palace has a lad who's going to start for England in the World Cup playing for us. It's kind of crazy. So just trying to soak it all in.
So January transfer window coming up.
Yes, sir.
Somebody like Adam Wharton, are you worried that the Vultures are circling and going to try and get him in January? Or because you guys have enough to play for, Palace is going to hold pat and not sell until the summer?
I think hope for the latter there. I would hope really we're still a year and a half away from selling him. But if I'm being more logical about it, I'd say there's a good chance he's moved over the summer. In this upcoming window, though, I can't see it unless somebody comes in with a, Isak and then some level type deal for Palace. I think Palace will look at just about any offer for him and probably say, yeah, but we can probably do better 6 months from now. Wharton's only 21. He signed through May of 2029. So Palace really isn't backed into a corner here like they were with Gahey, who was on an expiring deal during this last transfer window. So I'm of the opinion that Palace will let it play out a little bit longer through this window. Hopefully longer than that, but certainly through this window.
It's the first match for us on Saturday, Matt, with head coach Rob Edwards at the helm. We typically hate going up against a club with a new manager, but are Palace stable enough not to have to worry about a new manager bounce away at lowly Wolves?
When you sent me the email to invite me on and I started taking down some notes and whatever, the first thing I wrote down was new manager bounce. Obviously you never want to be in that situation where you're the team counting on that, since it obviously means your previous guy hasn't worked out.
We're used to it.
But from a Palace side of things, I think it's a little worrisome that, you've had 2 weeks with the international break to get the team oriented to, a little bit of a new style, system, attitude, and Palace is going to be flying blind a little bit when it comes to, scouting and knowing exactly what to prepare for. The other worry for us come Saturday is Gahey's availability. He missed the last match prior to the break, reported to England camp, and then was sent back. Reports say he was on crutches for a while. No catastrophic damage, just some heavy bruising. The early word was he's expected to play Saturday, but we really won't know until Glasner's Friday press conference. But overall, though, it seems like all of the internationals got through the matches without incident. So should be close to a full strength squad out there for the Eagles. So feeling pretty confident about that.
So Wolves were very briefly linked to John Texter as a possible owner, buying us with his monopoly money. How bad would that have been for Wolves if that does come to fruition?
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit when you just said his name. So, I saw that headline and really felt for you guys. His, as you touched on a little bit earlier, his involvement with Palace is why we're playing in the Conference League and not the Europa League. I mean, there were certainly other missteps and weird situations there that all kind of came together, but Texter's ownership stake in Palace was kind of at the heart of it all. He always seems to leave in disgrace and also with his former clubs in kind of a worse place than when he arrived. So please, guys, stay just light years away from him.
So finally on to the game on Saturday, Matt. What do you anticipate the starting lineup to be and shape when you're away from home and coming off that international break? And within it, who are the danger men?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I think Gahey is the big question mark right now. His backup is 19-year-old JD Kenvo, who's had the type of season you'd expect for a 19-year-old. He's had a slightly panicked, misguided pass that was the only goal we gave up in the that led immediately to the only goal we gave up in the Conference League loss. But then he came back and he was man of the match against Brighton, where he put in a really solid shift. Defensively for Palace, he'll be, whether it's Gahey or Kenvo back there, he'll be joined by stalwarts Maxence Lacroix and Chris Richards in the middle of the defense, with Tyrick Mitchell and Daniel Munoz on the wing. So that three in the center and then the two attacking wing backs there. I'd expect that Wharton-Kamada pairing that I mentioned earlier in the midfield. I think that's our best one there. We do have good depth, but that's the one that I favor, and I think Glasner does too. And then in attack, we'll have late summer signing Yeremy Pino, who's just coming back from international break and playing for Spain. Liverpool killer Ismail Assar out wide, and then JP Mateta up top. And when you kind of talk about Dangerman, so much of the good stuff with Palace starts with Wharton. He's just so composed on the ball. Every pass has purpose and just seems like it's going to lead to something. And then, of course, I can't mention Dangerman for Palace without talking just for a sec about JP. He hasn't been as efficient finishing this year as he was in the first season and a half under Glasner, but his hold-up play, the attention he commands that can lead to opportunities for other players is just – you have to talk about it. And there's obviously a little bit of hope there that his goal for France, he had a magnificent header in France's last game of qualifying, is kind of a sign of things to come for the weekend.
So when you beat Wolves on Saturday, which of those bottles behind you are you going to be cracking open?
One of them is actually, I went over to London and I went to the Ginstitute, and they let you kind of create they give you like their house blend of gin, and then you can add your own flavor. So there actually is a Crystal Palace themed bottle of gin back there. So that's
So what's in that one? Is it like raspberry and blackberry or blueberry?
Like it was like there was like a little pine that you could put in there, and I'm not going to remember the other thing. I'll send you the recipe though.
Nice. We like our drinks here.
Yes.
Well, Matt, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Really enjoy it. It seems like Wolves have barely won since we saw you, though, so I consider you bad luck now.
Oh, Fred, I accept your score. And you guys, thanks for having. You guys are always class. I hope that the next time we chat, your football skies are much brighter.
We would just settle for 17th. If the sky is 17th, we are reaching high.
Very good.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the night.
All right, bye. I like Drew from Pittsburgh in the comments. A Wolves themed drink would be a mixture of whiskey and sadness.
There's got to be tears in there, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't been able to crack open my bottle of Albion Tears or just tears in general.
Just sadness for Josh.
Just sadness
No
for
whiskey.
me in my Buble because I'm still on the Tylenol 3. Wah, wah. Well, guys, the Rob Edwards era starts on Saturday. What are you expecting, Paul?
I don't know. I've listened to pretty much all of the shows that have talked about his previous setups and teams shapes that he favors and everything like that. And there's been no consensus about how we're going to show up. So how our players fit into what he wants to put out, it doesn't seem like we've got that that attacking thrust from like an all-out approach that he took with Luton, whereas the formation seems to suit that, whereas we're not ideally set up in a good way to replicate formations and types of personnel that he was bringing out more recently at Middlesbrough. So it's going to be really interesting when that team news comes out on Saturday morning. And then even off the back of that, trying to figure out who's going where and what formation they're going to play.
Danny, are there any surprises you're expecting in the lineup?
Probably not. I mean, I think that the questions will be around, who is actually in the back three. I think we all kind of expect that he's going to stick with the back three. It's something he played at Luton and he's played, at various other places. And that's sort of what our team is set up for. But the question is who comprises that back three. I think that's one question. Back three feels like a lock. Two holding midfielders of the two Brazilians feels like a lock. But then everything else around them, I think, is up for grabs. I think like the ones that I consider more settled are like, Hugo Bueno has been getting the most minutes at left back, so he'll probably stay there. It kind of these things where it's like rock the boat as little as possible while trying to sort out the attacking problems. But I would have a hard time predicting who's going to be starting up front or even in what configuration. You could, I guess, make the argument that certain players who weren't participating in the international window, might have more of a chance. So, Fer Lopez has been there the whole time. So people have been clamoring, obviously, for him to start. And he's been there the whole 2 weeks. So you could imagine it. But that being said, that's not usually something that's taken into account. So we will just have to see on Saturday morning.
I almost feel like the release of the lineup may be more interesting than the match itself. What do you think to that, Paul?
I think if everything, it just gives you some freshness from that lineup, from however he concocts that team. Like we could draw a line under what went previously and just go into this with no, it's weird. It's like no great expectations that he's magically going to turn it around, but we haven't got that baggage of Vitor holding us back. So I'm looking forward to it in a weird way. I think if we take those positive vibes into it, can't be any worse than what we've endured up to this point. So let's have some positivity moving forward.
I think I can say with confidence that the lineup will be better than the poo-poo platter we threw out there for the Fulham match, which is still one of the worst lineups I've ever seen. Guys, let's look at the prediction table. I'm still in first place, 9 points. Danny, you're in second with 7. Paul's got 6. And the guest spot and Alex are tied with 4 points. So, Danny, what is your prediction for Palace at Wolves?
Oh, I really went back and forth here whether to just do a bid or something. Because who knows? I mean, who knows what will look like, how we'll set up any of that stuff. I think that the international break could play to our advantage as well as playing at home. But I feel any trepidation betting on Wolves to get any kind of result against Palace, regardless of the scenario. So yeah, I'll say let's say Wolves 1, Crystal Palace 2.
Okay.
Ooh.
2-1.
Oh, and Chris
Alex-
Fisher in the comments immediately said that same thing.
Alex went with 1-0 Palace. He wasn't going to make it on tonight. Paul, what are you seeing?
Probably the complete opposite to what I predict. So, with that said, I'm going to take that positivity. I'm going to take that very unwolves like manager bounce impacting on someone else, especially a team that we've consistently struggled to beat home and away most recently. So screw it, Wolves 2, Palace 1.
Ooh, look at that. I think Wolves are going to be very much improved from the last few matches. So with that, Palace 2, Wolves 0.
Wow. You and Joey.
Well, the international roundup, we've talked about that. Danny, what type of things have we seen with that going on?
Yeah, so this was kind of the last international break, obviously for a little while, but the last international break that really concerns the World Cup. There are a few playoff games to happen with the like inter-confederation playoffs, but for the most part, the teams that have qualified for next year's World Cup have basically been all decided now. And so we had a few players involved in that. The big one going into it was really to see how Nigeria could do. They were handed a huge lifeline with some kind of weirdness that happened in the African conference, but they were not able to make it out of the playoff. They did get to the final, but just could not really get over the line against DR Congo. And it's just like I saw a lot of hate for Tolu on Twitter, and I think people are taking that at face value. I don't know. I watched that game and several of the Nigeria games before that, and the way that they utilize him is very strange. I've been having a lot of trouble understanding what the idea is. He's clearly second to Osimhen, but like whether he comes on sort of like when Osimhen is tired or whether he comes on a completely different role seems to be like kind of never makes any sense. So he came on around the 77th minute and then got pulled in the 115th and added extra time before penalties. And people said that he played terribly. I thought the whole team was playing pretty disjointed. Anyway, they got knocked out. So that was a little bit of a bummer. Obviously, we had some sort of mixed results from some friendlies, but they're all friendlies, and I don't want people to read too much into them. Like Agbadou played one game and didn't play the other. They were just friendlies. The big story last night was that Jean-Rickner Bellegarde in Haiti qualified directly for the World Cup for the first time since 1974, over 50 years. And it's been a really triumphant story in a lot of ways. Because Haiti haven't been able to play any of their home matches actually in Haiti because of the political situation there and just security reasons. And so, their fans who are by and large, among the poorest people in the region, just absolutely loving it. And a great story of, the way that soccer and sport in general can uplift people. Pretty amazing. And obviously, forgotten Wolves man, Duckins Nazon was part of that team as well, which is always fun when I'm tweeting about it because there's always somebody who remembers him. But yeah, that was pretty exciting. So just to run through real quick, because I think and we'll probably talk about it further episodes as we get to January and we're talking about incomings and outgoings, but players who have qualified or their teams have qualified for the World Cup and therefore their movements in January might, be impacted. Ivory Coast, Colombia, Haiti now, South Korea, Portugal, Norway, Uruguay, Spain and Paraguay. I'm including them because of Fer Lopez and Enzo. I don't know if they'll ever play for the senior team. And obviously Brazil are all qualified. And then you have Czech Republic and Ireland who are still in the European playoffs. So that's just a thing to think about in terms of players who might want to leave or might not want to leave, depending on our situation and also theirs. I mean, it's about playing time. Even if they're in a team that's getting relegated, there might be some advantage to them staying. But I hope that it's not a big talking point, but something tells me that as we get there and we're sort of making, they're sort of making plans for transfer strategies, that there's going to be more than one player that is talking to Matt Wild, I guess, or Jeff Shee or whoever about what they want out of the next 6 months. So definitely something to revisit on a later podcast.
Danny, have you picked up where Bellegarde's been playing for Haiti? I think he's had some positive comments, but
yeah, I mean, he's been one of the best players in their team, but he plays much more as like a holding midfielder. And obviously a lot of that has to do with the opposition that they play against. I think that he's an extremely competent holding midfielder. I always get excited because I want him to get into the box, but he almost never does. He's taking all their set pieces. But yeah, lots of praise for Bellegarde and a couple other players that they sort of recruited. Obviously, Bellegarde is one of those who would have to do a lot of work to make it into the France national team. And so, switched over to Haiti when he was still in the youth levels, I think. And so we have players that are similar like that. And it's just, I think that that's a good segue to also point out that, it's perilous reading too much into international games generally, and especially friendlies, that people, wring their hands a lot about oh, we don't have these players for the whole break. And wouldn't it be better if they were home? But, the reality is that even the 20th place team in the Premier League has international players going all around the globe. So it's kind of just what it has to be. And yes, you can look at the quality of those national teams, and that's a story to be told in terms of our recruitment, definitely. But you can't just make a direct comparison with what they're doing out there, especially with Tolu. Like I said, they say he had a stinker. John Richter Bellegarde, on the other hand, had a great game, but it's against Nicaragua. So really hard to read too much into that. The one last thing that I'll say, though, is that 2 players did stay back from international duty, slightly different stories on each of them. So Krejci was suspended for his next competitive game. They only had 1 friendly and 1 competitive game. So he could have been called up for the friendly, but they decided, not clear on whose side it was decided, that he would be allowed to stay, in England. Obviously, he could have been called up for the friendly, and he is one of the leaders on the team. He's captained the team. So you kind of expect that he would go. So that's a bit of a story. He did attend the Grand Slam of Darts in Wolverhampton early in the break to support his countryman who was competing there. And the other one was Marshall Munetsi. That was a notable one when the Zimbabwe team came out, that only Chirewa got called. Munetsi is co-captain, vice captain, whatever, of Zimbabwe. And I was trying to dig around, but hard to substantiate anything, but it seems like the consensus amongst Zimbabwe fans is that either Wolves or Marshall Munetsi requested that he not be called up for these friendlies because of the coaching transition at Wolves. Coincidentally, Zimbabwe are also going through a coaching transition. So there was a bit of confusion in the wording around that. But yeah, it seems like both Krejci and Marshall Munetsi, to some extent, stayed back because of the situation at Wolves, which I know people aren't as huge a fan of Munetsi as of some other players, but it can only be seen as a good thing that there are players who are, willing to put in the work over the international break, even with, not the full squad there. And it probably helps a lot to have those senior players there just to be able to get started with Rob Edwards.
So next up, it's our favorite portion of the show. It is No Stupid Questions, the opportunity for you, our listener and viewer, to get in touch and ask us any weird and wonderful questions regarding this wonderful football club of ours, Wolverhampton Wanderers. You can do that on the socials like our X, WLW Pod, on Facebook. You can also email them to hello@wholelotofwolves.com. One person who did that earlier this month, which we missed, so our apologies to Scott Allen. He emailed and asked, when your team gets relegated to the Championship, Does the team store get cheaper, or do they just stop selling things?
That's a great question.
So,
Well,
you know that.
unfortunately, I was going to say, unfortunately for us here in the States, that those answers are above even Jeff Shee. You gotta write a letter to the White House to figure out how much we're going to be paying.
it's probably a no and a yes, in that prices will stay the same or maybe go up and less merch is available. But there are sadly no discounts for lower league participation. That's for sure.
It figures right when we're getting all the betting companies off as shirt sponsor, we're gonna have the freaking championship patch instead of the Premier League one.
Yeah, I'm imagining it that ban extends into the Football League as well. I'm guessing that'd be the case, but
money shop, here we come, Paul.
that could be. We should do that Major's Fish and Chips, like Preston have got that Brothers Pie Company. We should go local. Those orange chips on the jersey would work pretty well.
Yeah.
Next up,
why has Weatherspoons not sponsored the kit yet?
Possible alcohol ban. I'm not sure.
Oh.
I know it certainly apply when we played in Europe, but fat chance of that happening. So next up, off of X, our friend Drew Freakin asks, do you believe that Wolves won't sell Joe Gomez in January? And also, is anyone off the table for you regarding a January sale? Danny, take a swing at that one first.
To answer the first question, no, I don't believe that Wolves won't sell João Gomez, which is to say, I do believe that that is a possibility. I know, the reporting on that has been spotty at best. And I think, I'm not really putting any stock in the reporting specifically, but I also just think that with the World Cup year happening, and depending on where Wolves are in January, I'm just kind of not assuming that anyone is necessarily off the table. I think that there are some players who have more of an ability to make such a move happen if they want. But I think that, the two that we're most worried about losing, João Gomez and Andre, have a very good claim to make that they deserve to be in that Brazil squad, and arguably maybe at least one of them starting, and that it's not happening because of the mismanagement at Wolves. And I would tend to agree with them. So I certainly wouldn't put a percentage on it. I have no idea how likely such a thing is. And it obviously depends greatly on how many points we have and how many points the teams around us have. But I'm not assuming that anybody can be held on to in this situation. And it may be that we have to hold on to some people, more or less against their will and say, you can't leave now. You can leave in the summer, but you cannot leave now. But that always has to be weighed with what are you expecting to get out of them for the next 4 months.
I think what helps there is that he really loves Wolverhampton. It's very much feels like Neves and Raul, where that's going to play into it. I think Andre's as good as gone. I'd be stunned if come January 31st, he is still on Wolves squad. And probably Arias, I think, will be gone too. I mean, maybe for João, I think it's got to be like a huge offer that comes in. Because maybe you can convince him, if he likes Rob Edwards enough, maybe you could convince him to stick around through the championship season. You never know. You'd hope we could keep some of those guys, but yeah, Huang could be gone too in January. I don't know. Who do you think's gone in January, Paul?
I think you might be on the right lines as far as Andre, and I think as a club, they probably need to correct some of those bad recruiting decisions to even it up a little bit with homegrown quotas and all of that. And I think you're going to have probably Edwards wanting more control over players that are bringing in. Hopefully, with that, they're those that he's identified that are going to suit the way he wants to play. And you typically think they'd be more either British-based or well-established within the league already. So I think that will factor into it. I really don't see anyone else apart from Andre who's really shone in any type of glory to even attract any attention, though. So I think you're right where Zhao's concerned in that the manager for him is so important, or the coaching, and he did seem to be one who'd play for O'Neill, you know, younger in profile, probably got a better understanding of his position and what it takes and everything, versus whatever Vitor was like as an totalitarian, or like the approach that he would take. And I think that could factor into it, but I think it'd be a huge stretch if he'd stayed beyond the relegation. I really would.
One that I could definitely see going, and I know he's not exactly a starter right now, is Jose Sa. If Sam Johnstone keeps his place, you know, not really thinking about a return on investment per se, but if you're talking about players who we paid at least a certain amount of money for, and can we get some back, and other advantages of sending him out somewhere would also open up a spot for us, because right now we can't register anybody who's not homegrown or under 21. So that would be one where, assuming Sam Johnstone keeps his place, then you could very much see Jose Sa head out the door. And that's almost like an incentive to keep Sam Johnstone as the starting goalkeeper. And I've said I'm not a huge fan. I kind of prefer Jose Sa, but like, if you are still switching, if you're still trying to figure out which one of them is your starting goalkeeper, then you almost don't want to get rid of either of them. But we've said, I mean, it's
or
not,
you want to get rid of both.
Yeah, it's like 10th on the list of the problems with this squad. But like we said, like when we were closing in on deadline day, like we got 4 goalkeepers here. And yeah, eventually Tom King went out. But like this situation with like basically like 2 number ones, neither of which are super convincing. And then like this number 3, who's kind of the number 2 behind both of them, is like such a mess. And that just feels like a very easy one where even if you just get, you know, a nominal amount of money for Jose Sa, it opens up a space to fix something else. So that one feels very easy. But a lot of the other ones, it really depends on what we're doing and how any of them is performing.
Danny, you had a question?
Yeah. And I've already blanked on it because I was just rambling. Here it is. Okay. So we have like 15 different captains. Who's going to be the captain under Rob Edwards? Or maybe more importantly, you know, will he even bother to like announce anything and just say, you know, like, oh, well, I'm naming whoever, you know, let's say Krejci as captain on Saturday. It doesn't make anything of it. And then we just quietly notice that he keeps staying captain, or João Gomez or whoever. Like, do we make something of it or do we not make something of it? And if so, who is captain?
It's going to be João, or it's going to be Marshall Bedetzi.
I think it's going to be Krejci. I think he's going to go for that defender at the back, full view of the pitch. I wouldn't want it to be a weight on Joe's shoulders. I want him just to play his natural game. He's enthusiastic, exuberant, sometimes can get a little hot-headed. He needs more of a calming influence than him being the calming influence over anyone else to try and talk down a booking or make peace in a situation that could be getting testy. So I think Crikey would be a good fit, and like a good, you know, now that this has all happened, a good chance to usher someone in that you know he's going to start. It's not going to be like Toto Gomez, who's questionable at least positionally with his place. So I think the only risk with Krejci is that could be temporary, if we go down and there's something in that clause, that buy option, that means he's not signing for a championship team.
There's a great question in the chat, Paul.
Yeah, just last one we'll cover from Cy Waldron in the comments live off of YouTube. He asked Josh, the better the Bears do, the worse it gets for Wolves. Would you take a Wolves relegation for a Bears Super Bowl win? Oof.
Bear down, Chicago Bears. Let every play clear the way to victory. Yes, I'm sorry, Wolves. I will gladly watch Paramount Plus for a Super Bowl victory. Just like I would be fine with the Bears having 10 decades as the last in the league to make it to Champions League. So there you go.
That's the problem. There's not an equivalent. That's
there's not an equivalent.
How can you make it worse for the Bears than it already has been?
Than it has been. Yeah. I saw a stat. This is the first time that the Bears have won 7 games, their 7th game this early in the season since like 2011. Like that's when I started dating my wife.
All right, how about this? Wolves survive and then make it into the Champions League next year, but Bears move to a different city.
Oh, they can move to a different city. I don't care.
What's your least favorite city?
What is my least favorite city?
West Bromwich.
Yeah.
West
My
Bromwich
least
Bears.
favorite American city is, Auburn, Alabama would be up there, but probably Lubbock, Texas, or not Lubbock, Texas, excuse me, Lufkin, Texas, which is the biggest shithole in Texas. And I cannot stand it. Had to go there all the time when I worked at the tourist destination in Galveston. I could never get cell phone signal, even though I'd look out and in the parking lots, the cell phone tower of the hotel.
You're on notice, Lufkin, Texas. Just know.
I made it clear. I hated those people. And one of my coworkers who traveled with me was Asian, and I was always like, "Oh, you gotta watch yourself. They ain't seen many of your kind here in Lufkin, Texas." And of course, she got a speeding ticket.
Could you root for a Dallas Bears, Josh?
A doubt? Yeah, I could do that.
Oh, wow.
I could do that. Yeah. It's not the Chicago thing that I'm sold on. It's at this point, it's just like the Bears are ingrained in me.
And that is no stupid questions for this week. Remember, you can take part, send those questions through on X at WLW Pod, on our Facebook, and use that email as well, hello@wholelotofwolves.com.
So, the Paramount Plus Watch of the Week, as we get ready for Wolves to be on Paramount Plus exclusively next year, we're going to go with my favorite movie from 2024, which was Smile 2. The synopsis: about to embark on a new world tour, global pop sensation Sky Riley, played by Naomi Scott, begins to experience increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and pressures of
Marshall
fame,
Manetzi.
she must face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control. Jeff Shee. So again, this was my favorite movie of 2024. It is a horror movie. The performance by Naomi Scott is incredible. If the Academy Awards didn't hate horror movies so much, she should have been nominated. Just fantastic. You don't necessarily have to watch the first Smile, but you probably won't understand the first 10 minutes of the movie if you haven't watched the first Smile. Danny, have you watched either of those movies?
Either Smile? No, I have not.
They're very good, slow burn, creepy horror films. You know, a little bit of gore, but, you know, there's definite tension. And my daughter loves horror movies, and Smile 2 was both of our favorite movie of the year last year. So that is your Paramount Plus Watch of the Week.
So thanks to Danny on the socials, Alex doing our producing, and you, our audience, as it's put together for you. We have a whole lot of fun doing it. A huge favor back to us and helping to help a whole lot of Wolves grow would be a 5-star review on that podcast platform that you listen to us on, along with subscribing to and liking our content and commenting when it comes to YouTube. We will be back early next week after the Crystal Palace game to review everything what happens there, and then start to preview a little tasty trip to Villa Park for a West Midlands derby the following Sunday against Aston Villa. So in the meantime, let's bring that positivity. Let's say Rob Edwards' Barmy Army, and we go up the mighty Wolves.